Hi, Botanical Medicine Club. Ryan here with another one of our herb talk videos for you. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so this herb talk is going to focus on Foeniculum vulgare. So this is a picture of Foeniculum. Some of you may recognize this plant. If you come on one of our herb walks down here at Bastyr University, California, you can meet this plant in person. It's not native to the United States or California, but it is naturalized here, especially in warm, dry, and salty soils. And in case you don't know what naturalized means, naturalized refers to any species, in this case plants, that are not native to an area, but that have integrated into the local ecosystem. And they're able to reproduce and maintain themselves without the assistance of humans. So that's what naturalized means. And just as comparison, when you hear the term invasive, like an invasive species, that is, in this case, a plant that's also not native, but the difference is that invasive species, they can establish themselves in various locations. They tend to grow very quickly, and they spread to the point of disrupting other plant communities and ecosystems. So they tend to be a bit more harmful to the local ecosystem, whereas naturalized plants aren't necessarily harmful. Okay, and here's a photo, just zooming in on what we're going to talk about in a minute, which is the compound umbels, which is one of the characteristic features of this plant and other plants in this family. And you can sort of see how we have one little stem coming out here, and then each one of these has several of repeating that pattern. So this is one umbel, and then here are several other umbels, so it's a compound umbel. And we'll talk about that more in a minute. And then this is just a photo of the leaves. You can see they have a very feathery pattern. And come on one of the herb walks and you could go ahead and see this in person. Okay, so some general facts about Foeniculum vulgare. The common name is Fennel, and the family is Apiaceae. This is a carrot family, and it was previously known as Umbelliferae. So you might see that if you're depending on what research or which monographs you're looking at. And the primary pattern for plants within this family are the compound umbels that I just showed you. The umbel, it refers to the individual stems of the flower head that are branching out from a single point. So this is sort of like, think of like an umbrella. And then, as I pointed out, there's smaller umbels at the end of each main spoke, and this is what makes it a compound umbel. And this family does have many edibles, such as Foeniculum, which is edible. Carrots are edible, but it also has some of the most poisonous plants in the North America. So you need to be very careful when you see these plants out on herb walks. You do not want to mistake, say, Foeniculum for poison hemlock, for example, which you could see at the bottom of the slide. They look very similar. So you do need to know, be clear on the differences when you're out. Another feature of this family is that they have hollow stems and pinnate leaves for most of them. There's 5 petals and 5 stamens. And the ovary, which is the reproductive part of the flower, has 2 carpels, and each carpel produces 1 seed. So if you come out when the plant is sort of dry, you'll see where all the flowers are, all the little seeds, and you can get a better picture of what that looks like. And the parts we use medicinally are the seeds. And of course, if you've used fennel in cooking, you know that we're using sort of the base of the fennel for cooking. So some of the constituents and pharmacognosy of fennel: it has volatile oils. The main ones are anethol, estragol, and fenchone. And the volatile oils are one of the main reasons we're using this plant. They relax smooth muscles, and they could relieve griping pains and flatulence. So that's why sometimes we use this for the GI tract. It also has flavonoids, primarily rutin, quercetin, and camphorol glycosides. It also has coumarins and sterols, and these components are phytoestrogenic. And it also has fixed oils and some sugars. Okay, so actions and uses. This is a really great plant because we can use it for several different body systems, as you can see. And that's why we're covering it right now in winter quarter is because you're going over the gastroenterology and respiratory systems. So for gastroenterology, it's carminative and it's specific for colic in infants. So this is safe for the babies. Carminative, in case you're not familiar with that term, it refers to soothing the GI tract and relieving flatulence. Medicinally, we use carminatives mainly to dispel gas, relieve spasm, relieve colic, and the carminative actions of this plant are due to the volatile oils, and most volatile oils will have this action. And specifically the seeds of many Apiaceae plants act as carminatives. And so when we're using the seeds of fennel, this is where that action comes in. Okay, and just for an example, some other plants that have this property include Pimpinella anisum, Petroselinum sativum, Angelica archangelica, and several others. So this isn't specific to fennel. All right, it's also spasmolytic, anti-inflammatory to the intestines. It's a stomachic, and it's reported to enhance hepatic regeneration. Okay, and just to note here, in case you're not familiar with the term stomachic, because it's not as commonly used, it just means promoting the appetite and assisting in digestion. All right, and respiratory tract, it can relax bronchial smooth muscle spasms. So think bronchitis, maybe some asthma, things like that. It can also thin out unhealthy mucus and improve secretions of healthy fluids, which is important for the lungs when we're trying to fight an infection. So it can help with that. And then gynecology, which you'll cover in the spring. It acts as a phytoestrogen, which are estrogen-like compounds from plants, and they tend to compete at estrogen receptors. They are not the same as estrogen. They're not the same as xenoestrogens, which you will cover more when you get to the gynecology section of your classes. It's indicated for amenorrhea and oligomenorrhea, specifically as a hot infusion. It's also a galactagogue and an abortifacient. So important to note for abortifacient, we don't want to use it during pregnancy. And galactagogue means it's going to stimulate milk supply. Let's see here. Yeah. And just an interesting note about the galactagogue. Let's go back to a photo. You'll notice that the way the compound umbel looks, and this isn't true of all plants, but it's sort of just an interesting feature and a way to remember that fennel is a galactagogue, is that you'll sort of note that the way the flowers look sort of looks like mammary glands within the breast. So just a little memory trick for you there. Okay. Contraindications. There's no known contraindications when you're using the whole plant form other than the abortifacient aspect. So we don't want to use it too much in pregnancy. And this is specific to the essential oil. So again, the whole plant tends to be very safe, but when you're using the essential oil, that's where some of the risk comes in. So be very careful. And this tends to be true of a lot of essential oils. They're much more potent. And so you need to be aware of the differences between using a whole plant and an essential oil. Okay, and resources, which are also a lot of books we highly recommend here for you. Okay, and that's going to be this presentation. We'll see you in a couple of weeks for another herb talk. Bye.